Last double and last kick.
What, has it been like 6 months now?
Yeah.
Yeah? It healed up really quick. It healed up really quick.
The skin,
Yeah.
the head.
You know, it never hit me there as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
Never did. It happened so fast, it didn't really give me time to process any of that.
Okay. You told me you're going to London.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm headed to London this Saturday, meeting with a couple people there, yeah.
Don't get another one. Be so kind.
Yep, I'll try my best. A couple of years ago, when I was here in 2022 and 2023, there were no stabbings in Dresden. There's none. I didn't hear about that.
Not in the scale.
Yeah.
What changed? That's
Well, we know.
we see that
I needed to find answers, but in order to do that, I needed to go to the people that make the decisions that shape the future. But there's a looming threat over that very same future, the threat of a nation fundamentally shifting faster than anyone has been able to keep up here in Germany. Have we gone too far? What is the best way forward for this country? I sat down to find out exactly that. What are we doing to safeguard that future, the future of us, the future of this nation? What's our hope? What's our legacy? What threatens it? What fuels it? And where did it all begin?
The topic of immigration has become so widespread nowadays, and it's a major concern for a lot of not only conservative people here in Germany, but people throughout Europe in general. What are the steps that the AfD is taking or says they're going to take to try to combat that problem, given they come to power soon?
It's pretty easy. We have to first address that this mass migration is causing problems all over the place. It's not only inner security, it's also ruining our economy, our social welfare system, and our educational system. We've got problems in the schools. So there are all kinds of problems related to this one topic. Yeah. It's not all about migration, but it's a lot about migration, and we have to address it as it should be addressed. Second thing is we have to change it. What that means is we have to close our borders, no one comes in anymore, and then we have to bring back those people who are illegally here in Germany. That's more than 200,000 people. That's already a huge job to do. And then we have to focus on those people who are legally here in Germany, and we have to check whether the legal status has to be withdrawn, and then to get rid of those people as well. It's no longer possible for us to keep on going in the same direction. And we would address that very clearly, and we would do what the current chancellor is only campaigning on, and then later on is not delivering anything.
Exactly. Do we even have the resources to do that here in Germany?
That's a problem. It is a problem, but we can solve it. But the main answer to this question is, it's a question about capacity, which means we should not allow more people to come in, because it makes it even more difficult to send them all back.
So the first step would be to close the borders of Germany to all migration.
Well, to all illegal migration, of course. And the problem, which is already huge, is not even getting bigger. That's the point.
When it comes to, for example, deportation flights, I was in London last year, and there was this big topic right and around about deportation. It cost the taxpayer $500,000 to send home 50 illegal migrants from England. What's it going to cost the taxpayer to send home 50 migrants from Syria that are illegally here?
I don't know the number.
Yeah.
The only thing I know, it's less than keeping them here.
Yeah. And in a short-term perspective, or even in a long-term perspective, is that something that's organizable, that's feasible? How are we going to fund a deportation campaign like that? It needs to happen, right? But how are we going to fund that in addition to the costs of living already rising here in Germany, inflation already rising, housing so difficult, especially for the youth?
We have to make it a priority, and then we will find the funds. And in the long run, we know what we save when we get rid of 200,000 illegal or criminals and so forth. So it doesn't pay off immediately, of course, but we have to do it. I mean, in whatever circumstances, this is something we have to achieve.
A problem I see as the immigration has been so deep set over the past decade here in Germany. Since 2015, I don't know the exact number, but almost about 7 million people have immigrated from the neighboring countries, Syria, Middle East, even in and around from Ukraine as well. These people have a higher birth rate than Germans do, on average. Germans being 1.3, these Middle Eastern families, they're coming from cultures that have much more on average. We can't deport them all, right? And the replacement of the natural citizen here in Germany is something I think Germans are very afraid of.
We're not talking about this topic at the moment. I addressed it in one of my speeches in the parliament, said, for example, Afghans in average have 4.7 kids. And when they're abroad, it's a bit less, so let's say it's only 4. And they don't have 4 kids by the age of 40 women, but probably by the age of 28 or something. And so this is really causing a problem which is already here. So if we would stop taking in anyone else, not one more Afghan, already those who are here will, double their numbers by a few years. Yeah. So this is something we have to think of. And with all of them having a German passport, this has an impact that politics is not focusing on. I think if we would start talking about it, people will be very, very, very scared, and for a good reason. And we should talk about it because this cannot happen.
The problem is so large, it's so entrenched here. How do we prevent that while we also try to send them home and we use money for that, and also try to secure the infrastructure here and the values and the democracy? It's an overwhelming problem, and it's so understandable. Like you just mentioned, people here are scared because the reality is a lot uglier, and not even the politicians, not even the political system are really talking about the long-term reality of this. Even we could look to the UK for an example of what happens when that immigration becomes so mishandled and entrenched into the nation. Now, another problem that just came to mind, when we think about remigration, when we think about the deportations, not only the funding that goes into that, but also the flights back, how do we get countries to cooperate with this?
This is something we have to focus on. We have to find countries who accept them to take them in again. So first of all, it's of course the countries where they come from. And if we don't have them to take them back, we have to put pressure on them. Luckily, all those countries are more likely to depend on us than we on them. So we should take any kind of pressure we can put on them on withdraw visas, reject any kind of flights, in between trade and, of course, money we're giving to them for development. So all these funds have to be cut. You know, we can put pressure on them to accept their own people. Why are we sending money to Afghan as long as they're not taking in their citizens? I mean, why?
Yeah. Will the AfD have the political majority to be able to carry out that will?
We're working on that. So we're gaining by the day. So at the moment, in many polls, we're polling #1 in overall of Germany, in the eastern part of Germany, by far #1. So by leading by 10+% to CDU or SPD, and so we are gaining force, even though they are fighting against us with all legal and illegal measures. The good thing is people stopped trusting them. They stopped trusting mainstream media.
Rightfully so, yeah.
And they realize that what all political parties then, other than AfD, were lying to them. They're responsible for what has been done in the past. They're responsible for the situation we are in at the very moment. And so this is also fueling our campaign.
The European Union will certainly have something to say about these deportations, remigration being carried out effectively. Yeah. What do you think that they'll do to try to stop that process before it can even pick up traction?
They are not coming up with something. They're already arguing the way that we are not allowed to save our borders and we're not able to send back the people and so forth. So they're intervening in our policy, and we as AfD say, look, we're a sovereign country. We decide who becomes German citizens, whom we let into our country, and if the border around the European Union is not safe, then we have to save our own borders.
One thing that I've really noticed is that the left plays this weird language game that's very distinct to them, in that they campaign, they offer all this new language to the society, they codify it in law, and then later define it as something different, and thereby execute this massively intelligent process to change a system internally and fundamentally. How have you seen that happen here in Germany?
You have to be very aware, but they're playing the word game, which means they just define it in a different way that it has been meant in the beginning. For example, the word marriage. So we have that in our constitution, for example, and then they read it in a different way and say, well, marriage is something between two men. And we said, no, that's not what was meant in the constitution in the first hand. Or when they come up and come up with some new words like gender. You know, it used to be sex, the word, and then it was transformed into gender, and no one knows what that meant. And then they give a definition later on, after they have implemented this new word in all those official documents. So this is what makes us think in a different way, and they exchange our words, and they give a different meaning to the words, and that's how they gain the fight about our thinking, especially when it comes to the young people. And this is ongoing for a very long time. And so even when we're talking about the Germans, you know, we're sitting here in front of the Bundestag, and there's a huge sign on top of it saying it's to the German Volk. That's the German word, which difficulty it is to translate. But it means to the Germans who've been here for a long time. It's not for everyone who's just traveling across. But this is for us, for the Germans. And they are slightly shifting this also and saying, well, German doesn't really exist. So everyone is basically German who stays here for a while and, you know, maybe speaks a little bit of German, but even that's not necessary. And so, and then they are transforming our society. And this is what has a severe impact on the whole thing, because it also reduces our sense of community. You do not feel community with you know, every stranger. You don't. You just don't. We don't share the same language, the same history. We do not have to share the same political views.
Exactly, and culture.
But it's about culture. It's about the past. And so they're changing our society. and they do it through, finding new words or give new interpretations, definitions to words we all knew.
What is the difference between the Vaterland and the Bundestag?
So there is the government and the parliament. This is one thing. And the parliament is voted into office every 4 years, and we have a new government every 4 years. So we do not stick to the government, but we will always stick to our home country, to where our ancestors come from. This is where we have a relation for hundreds of years. And this makes a difference. So we will fight the government and we will stick to our country. We want to, we want to strengthen our country, and this is why we need a new government. And so this is, I think this is what has to be separated very, very clearly. If we, attack the government, they say yes, we are taking the country. No, we're taking the government, and the government has to be voted out of office because this can be changed. We cannot change our home country. We only have one, and that will never change.
And that government fundamentally does not fit with the values of that country. For so long, they're trying to make it something different, and again, like you just mentioned, play the language game at the same time. And so it confuses these people. And it's this swindle, it's this quick switch where they take the identity, the opportunity to connect with that Heimat, that ancestral home, that home country. They take that away before the youth can even realize that they ever had it.
Yeah, but we realize it doesn't work.
Yes.
More and more, especially young people, realize that they love their country and basically they hate the government, and they are perfectly right to do so.
Yes, perfectly.
It's not hate speech, it's just like...
It's critical thinking.
It's critical thinking, and if someone is destroying your home country, where all your ancestors came from, you have the right, you have the duty to go against them and try to replace them in the next election.
I completely agree. Thank you so much. What wonderful words for all those values that you just mentioned. Thank you so much.
There's always hope, and there's a good reason for hope. It's Jesus Christ who has already saved us.
Amen. Thank you so much.
I must admit I wasn't satisfied with the answers that I got. What I heard was idealism, was a push, was a movement. But what I didn't hear were solid, concrete steps to solve the problems themselves. This troubled me. I wondered if the people sitting in political office don't really know how to fix a problem this deep. Does it demand another perspective? Preparing for London, we were met with delay after delay. A snowstorm rolled into Germany, grounding all airports, and we were forced to find other means of transportation. I have noticed traveling here over the past few times, even since last year, since the slash, everything's so dysfunctional. Everything's so dysfunctional that everybody in America thinks the trains are on time here, and Germans are known for their timeliness, but it is the exact opposite.
It's a prejudice. I don't know how it's holding up still.
Dude, that must have been like how it was 50 years ago, because even in 2020,
maybe.
yeah, maybe 150, because even in 2023 it wasn't the case.
No, it's bad.
But stuff that doesn't even work anymore, and even today.
It's not just the airport.
What was it?
All of the train rides been a disaster too. There was two trains that broke down and we had to take on passengers.
Yeah.
We are 1.5 hours late already.
Already, and nothing's, yeah.
We're now headed from Berlin to Cologne to catch a plane tomorrow very early in the morning, basically no sleep, to go to London. Yeah. And we've already lost 1 day in London. We're supposed to be in London right now. We're supposed to be shooting right now. How are we gonna fit everything tomorrow? We're gonna get up early as well.
Yeah.
We're not sleeping at all.
No. It's dysfunctional as hell. And
You can't travel around Europe anymore.
No, you can't. You can't effectively, and that's why Americans don't come here like that anymore.
I mean, if you just look at the map, we're making half the way we were supposed to go through the air by fucking train.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And I wish that the audience could see outside and what the outside looks like. They're lucky it's night, because dude, this place looks like it's gone to shit.
It's terrible.
Unkept, unmaintained, just
desolate, concrete,
Rotting.
rotting. This is not the Germany people heard about or read in their fucking textbooks, man. That doesn't exist anymore. Dude, this place is going to shit. I feel bad for the people here, man. I genuinely do.
There's still something left, and it's so beautiful when you see it.
But hope doesn't govern a nation like this. Finances do. And when I get answers like we did a few days ago, like we're gonna find the funds for remigration, if it costs $500,000 to send 50 people home, 500,000 pounds to send 50 people home in London last year, assuming, now that's a conservative estimate, it's about 15 grand per person minimum. Okay, so we're already pushing 650. $650,000, 650,000 pounds. We're already pushing that. And there are 200,000 illegal immigrants in Germany that we're gonna send home because it's a priority. We're gonna spend $2 billion on that. We're gonna waste $2 billion of taxpayer money on remigration just to get replaced in half of the time by a 4x birth rate for migrant populations that just naturally have it higher, that are already on welfare. So we're paying the welfare, we're paying billions of dollars. We're doing it because we're angry.
One step closer to London, one step closer to answers. Alex Armstrong was the first on my list when we touched down on the ground, an instrumental figure in UK politics. Alex had always been the voice of those who were too afraid to speak, as he was for mine when I was slashed in the face back in August. He spread awareness, he spread the truth, he spread the news. Right now, he was the loudest voice in the room, and the exact one I needed to hear next. It's understandable that countries leaving the EU may experience a few years of, political turmoil. Would you recommend that, per se, Germany or these other European nations that are being just opened up and penalized if they want to close their borders as well? $1 million a day Hungary and Poland are paying.
Crazy.
Would you recommend that they leave the EU if they want to take the necessary steps to protect their own people from this mishandlement of migration?
It's a really good question. I mean, just the first part what you were saying there, of course, there has been difficulty for Britain. I ask anyone who's ever been divorced, how was it? Right? Well, we've been married to the EU for a very long time. We've got a bunch of legislation that is EU law, that is British law. We have to clear all this stuff up. We've got to make new trade deals with partners around the world. But Britain was a global power not that long ago. We managed all this stuff without the EU, by the way. So we can do it again if we need to, and we will do it again. What I'd say to the people of those countries is this. The EU started as an economic union. That makes complete sense. British people being part of an economic union is a good thing, and I'm more than happy to trade with the EU. We love Europeans. We just don't like the bureaucrats. What's happened inside the EU is a bunch of unelected people have got a lot of power, and they are dictating policies that a blanket across the most culturally diverse continent in the world. If you're telling me that the French and the Spanish think the same way, and the Greeks and the Germans do, and the British and the Norwegians, of course we're all so special and unique. We should honor that and we should love that. The European Union wants to destroy that. They want to make you all the same. Love your culture, believe in your culture, believe in your society. So this is why Europe has been the most powerful continent for thousands of years. We have thrived. Since the Romans, this continent has dominated the planet because of its individually rich societies and people and its uniqueness. Don't you think we would destroy that? What I'd like to see those countries do is reform the EU. It has got good mechanisms to it, but the way it's being run and this tendency to move to become a United States of Europe is terrifying. It's terrifying because your culture will disappear. That is the plan. It's to make a flat land with no borders. Well, unfortunately, borders have been a thing for thousands of years too, right? Since our tribal times there were borders. We've just got to move on and say, we tried it. This open borders nonsense has failed. It's ruining lives, it's destroying our cultures, and it's unsustainable. And actually, it's making us all poorer. There is no benefit to this. Controlled migration is good. Of course, we want to bring in the most talented people in the world. Why can't you do that? Of course, you should be able to, but it shouldn't be dictated to by an unelected president. For goodness sake, I mean, how can the European Union criticize China? How can they criticize Russia?
Exactly.
When the president of the European Union is elected by a bunch of people behind closed doors and they don't get a single vote? Come on, man.
Yeah, Americans don't even understand that the decision makers in the EU echelons that actually pass legislation are not elected at all.
Yeah.
We as citizens, not even me, citizens in the EU can elect officials that represent their constituency, but none that actually have any power to make legislation or veto legislation. That's all done above the board, appointed. Appointed by who? Who are the donors of all these people?
Well, that's a good point. Where's the money coming from? I did a press trip to Hungary, got to meet some incredible people there. What the EU is doing to that country is disgusting. They made a sovereign decision to say, we don't want illegal migrants here and we're not going to take anyone. It's our choice. Why does the EU think it has the power or deserves the power to dictate Hungary's domestic policy? I don't get that. I don't understand how this union of economies has evolved into this beast, this horrible, almost fascist-like beast that says, no, if you don't do what we tell you, we're going to punish you and we're going to punish your citizens for it too.
Exactly.
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's totalitarian. And still, at the same time, it's almost like these roles have shifted over the past 50 years, where the totalitarian element, instead of operating potentially in the right-wing spectrum, has completely shifted to the left. We're seeing the restrictions on speech like we're talking about, the forced open borders, the forced assimilation, and the people feel powerless. Is there any hope left?
The old left and right wing doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It died. It died a long time ago. What's happened? You're seeing this here in the UK. People who would be working class voting for the socialist parties here in Britain, they would vote for Labour, right? Working class people would vote for Labour. Richer, more middle class people would vote for the Conservatives. What's happened now is that you're seeing working class people and upper middle class people voting for Reform UK.
Yeah.
How has that happened? That's not a right wing or left wing party anymore. That is a party that is just running on a platform of, we're going to fix the stuff that's really badly broken about Britain. It's really badly broken. That's all their premise is. That's how desperate people are.
Yeah.
Right? Left wing back in the day, yeah, you'd be socialist, you'd have an ideology. People don't stick to those ideologies anymore. They just want a system that works. They're being dragged towards communism, and they're all getting poor, and they're all like, did I vote for this?
I don't think so.
Did I vote for mass migration? Did I vote for higher taxes constantly when they all promised me they were going to lower my taxes? Did I vote for any of this stuff? No.
Yeah.
The answer is no. Yeah. And they're scratching their heads, trying to figure out why, how this all went wrong. They feel betrayed time and time again. So the left and right wing stuff hasn't shifted. What's happened is that the left have moved so far away from the center that they don't even know what the center is anymore. They're over here saying, we're going to give puberty blockers to children. We're going to experiment on, we've got an NHS-sanctioned experiment on kids as young as 10 to block their natural biology. Children are being, this is going to be one of the biggest scandals in Britain one day, We're talking about it here in GB News. No one else is talking about it, by the way.
No.
Hundreds of kids are going to be going through puberty blocker trials sanctioned by the Health Secretary and the National Health Service.
Yeah.
How? How have we got to a point where 80 years ago we were pointing the finger at Nuremberg, at Nazis who were experimenting on children, and now all of a sudden the National Health Service is sanctioning experiments on kids? Sorry, I don't know how we got here.
Yeah.
And I think veterans who fought and died for those wars come on to GB News, they go on to national television shows, and so they wouldn't fight for Britain again. And then the left is scratching their head, oh, why? Why wouldn't they? Well, they see stuff like that happening. And they're like, that's not Britain. That's not what I fought and died for, my friends died for. That's why. That's why so many people are fed up.
So we got invited by Alex Armstrong today to go check out Whitechapel. Now, suspectedly, Whitechapel is the worst example of some of the stuff that's been going on here. So we're going to drop down, boots on ground today. We're going to check it out.
John, good to see you, man.
How you doing?
doing?
Great to see you.
Well, welcome to Whitechapel.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful Whitechapel.
Yeah, we're gonna show you around here today. Whitechapel is seen as maybe an example for many British people as a place where multiculturalism has utterly failed.
Yeah.
And it is a massive part of what many people call a replacement of white British people, white British culture more importantly, in the area. And what I'm going to show you while we're here today is how this place has transformed. Whitechapel was the home of Cockney Londoners.
Yeah.
You know, the lads who talk like that, you know,
Yeah.
sort of proper Cockney
Proper
London accent.
Londoners.
Proper Londoners,
Yeah.
you know, Idris Elba's sort of accent, that sort of stuff. Like
Yeah.
the real home of Cockney London, which no longer exists.
No.
Doesn't exist anymore. It's a dying breed. You're going to see here, even our local train station is written in Arabic to help people understand where they are, which I think is one of the most
Yeah.
damning indictments. People point to this all the time.
Certainly.
Why is a British railway station having to be written in Arabic? Well, because people here can't read English. Yeah. That's a simple fact. And so this is used as a good example right on the doorstep of the city of London, where the most wealth, the biggest amount of wealth in the country goes through the beautiful big skyscraper
Yeah.
buildings
Right over there.
is now on the doorstep of this, which is a place where many British people don't feel it represents
Welcome at
Britain
all.
anymore.
Yeah. Wow, man.
That protest group was banned, and a large part of them is the community for a period of time that has made many people look at Whitechapel as an example.
I'm finding as we're walking around here today that the English people and the English culture is erased out as the Islamic culture comes
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
That's not integration with English culture. That's not integration with the UK and Britain.
Yeah.
That's conquering.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people feel in Britain. They do feel that. I mean, there's not enough English people here left really to. I mean, what I would call genetically English people who have been born and raised here, to actually keep a lot of these institutions alive. The pubs are closing down, as you can see here, and instead of popping up things to suit the local community. People don't want to live in these areas. White British people do leave these areas, and they have been leaving them en masse for a long time. But also, you've got a point where migrants are moving into social housing, and therefore there's not enough social housing for white British people. And most of the social housing in London is given to migrants. It's not given to British people
Exactly.
anymore.
They're given a preferential treatment for social housing over the English
The
people.
government would deny that, but that's what
That's
it
what's
seems.
happening.
That's what it
Yeah.
seems to me. That's what the data shows. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, of course, what that does is that erases any attempted assimilation, like the pub here that's being closed. You can see how can you assimilate when you won't even engage in one of the greatest British traditions, which is
Exactly.
going to the pub, having a
pint.
roast, having
Yeah.
a pint, and talking to your friends. That is like the backbone of British culture.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't exist, well, you have to ask yourself the question: how can people assimilate and integrate into British society? And the answer is they don't. They form anew their own monoculture in these areas.
Yep. Immigration is about integration, and it's about assimilation. And even, just like you mentioned, the Osmani school is not a British name for a school. We're finding that these people are coming over, and they're overlaying their culture onto a culture that already exists, and so they're pushing that culture out forcibly, causing these people to move, relocate, and the ones that can't, subject to poverty in the areas that are so demographically changing. It's insane, where the businesses that are literally the lifeline of their culture and their identity can no longer flourish.
Yeah.
This is insane.
But those businesses have gone because there aren't British people to cater to anymore. Right? It's simple as that. You know, the social housing here doesn't go to British people mostly. It will go to people of Bangladeshi, Pakistani culture most likely. And the white British people that are left here are too poor to leave, and they haven't got a choice. They have to stay. It's their council house, their home. If they leave it, they won't get anywhere else.
I wanted to hear what the people of London thought about immigration. No better place to do that than Chinatown.
Jesus Christ. So like one of the consequences of migration here is you get places like this. Cultural diversity has never been the problem. Like look right now, we're in London, Chinatown. You see anybody screaming? You see anybody crying? No, everybody's going about their business day to day, night to night. It's completely fine. This is exactly the kind of immigration and assimilation that you want. Yeah, it's a selected community. Yeah, it's kind of separate from the actual London and English culture that's around here. But no, it's not violent, and no, it's not destructive. Look, communal-based, communally accessible, this is the kind of thing that we want. We can be here, we can stay here with thousands of dollars of camera equipment and not worry, because everybody's smiling, everybody's laughing. This is English culture and it's Chinese culture, and the two work seamlessly. That's an amazing thing, and that's what we should really be pushing for.
Do you think Chinatown is a really positive example of immigration or negative example?
We think it is a very positive example.
It's an amazing place, in fairness. Like, we came over here from Ireland, so like to see like a Chinese representation like in London is quite mad. Like, we just had an amazing meal there, and like everyone's so friendly. Like,
I think one of the main reasons that we came over was because we wanted to check out Chinatown.
Yeah.
You know, like this.
It's such a cool place.
It's such a big part of London as well.
Yeah.
I don't feel like people are out to get each other here in Chinatown. Do you guys?
No, not in Chinatown, but after the street there, I don't know.
It's strange.
Like
Yeah.
and everything, man.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's just like.
There's a lot of police walking around, so I feel safe. I felt like I'm closer to my hometown, and then there's a lot of supermarkets and foods that you don't have in London.
I feel safe walking around in Chinatown.
Of course, there's also some bad apples, you know. We need to tackle those issues and make sure everything is safe and make a model that is sustainable, where everybody can, learn from each other and help build the economy together and focus on what's good for the economy.
I couldn't help but see similarities between Whitechapel and Berlin. I decided to take a deeper look to show you guys what it's really become.
Now, when I think of Germany, when I think of Deutschland, this is what I picture. Take a look around. Take a look around. What do you see? Now this is classic Germany. This is heritage. This is that, cultural sophistication we all really crave for when we take a trip over here and spend thousands of dollars as Americans to go check out a foreign country. This is what we do it for. This is what it's all for. This is what we want to see. The idea of Germany and then the modern day actual Germany is very different. And us in America, we don't really get a good chance to come look and see what actually is here, what this place has actually turned into. And if you can't tell already, completely shit covered floors, tents, got piles of trash, and clearly a, healthfully diverse nation. This place is not the stereotypical or traditional idea of Germany. Wait a second. That looks like the tinfoil from the guy. Hey. Looking around, it's like a beautiful place. Like, I love this spot, kind of thing.
I would say it's beautiful. It's very wrecked, but
it's very what?
Wrecked.
Wrecked?
Wrecked. So
you think it's wrecked?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's very rock bottom. You know?
It's rock bottom.
Yeah, it's really rock bottom.
Do you think the multiculturalness has something to do with the rock bottom?
Of course not.
No. So it's like, it could be all German people here, it would be this rock bottom.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so it does have something to do with it.
Of course it had something to do with it. Of course it had an effect on the country.
Yeah.
But were people too blind to see it? Were people too really focused on themselves to notice the change so rapid that was going on around them? We heard from Germany, we heard from the UK. Now it was time to hear from Italy, and no better place to do that than Italy's heart, Rome.
Women getting beat up, left, and we're getting beat up while they were
Small was like, okay, maybe put the music down. They're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not exactly on like the same
Equal
playing
terms.
field. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. And that's why. I spent a lot of time in LA growing up. A lot of people.
All of this bullshit, like it's just not true.
Yeah.
But
I've said multiple times in my speeches that, you know, people, experts have been warning for things like civil war for a very long time. You know, people have been somewhat awake to what is going on, just the numbers, the raw numbers, you know, the fact that the people that are coming here are vast majority military-aged young men.
Exactly, 70% in Germany.
Exactly.
18 to 35.
And it's like that almost everywhere, right? You don't see the women, you don't see the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do come, they come afterwards, they have all the kids, you have even more young men.
Yep.
And it's not just the men anymore, it's also the girls.
Yep.
We've seen that in Germany as well, right? Mm-hmm. Very much willing to commit violence because they seem to be aware, you know, of the battle going on. They know, you know, they say that they're being oppressed, but they know damn well what they're doing, that they're trying to take over this countries, overthrow. They see themselves as one group, and they see white people as another.
Very factionalized.
And white people don't see themselves as one group because we've been told that we can't be that.
We can't be one group, yeah.
You know, what I perceive is that it's a one-sided violent event. So you can't really even call this a civil war or on the brink of a civil war because there's only one side fighting. There's only one side wielding the knives.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's why your story, for example, gained so much attraction, is because we don't see very often that young men or anyone in general, you know, Germans, Dutch, French, Italians, are able or willing to stand up to this type of violence. So the hero that you were in that story, we miss that hero all the time. We don't see that hero.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm really worried about, and I think is the greatest crime that has ever been committed also to the native population of Europe, is that we constantly have to have this feeling that we cannot go out in public spaces anymore without having to be afraid of this type of extreme violence.
Exactly.
That is also a mental violence, you know, that, I mean, it makes my blood boil when I think about it. Because that's something that goes beyond like the fear of being physically hurt. It's something that is in your mind all the time. You're not at home in your own country. You're not safe. You cannot go on a train. When you stand at a train station waiting for a train, you better make sure you stand with your back against a wall. Because what if someone here decides for some reason that they want to drag you down with them or push you in front of the train, because that happens.
Yep. It happened just last week.
It happened just last week, and it happens all the time. And I think that is, again, it is the greatest crime that has ever been committed to the people of Europe, is that it's almost worse, you know, because it's not one army against another. It's not a battle of peoples and ideas that are, you know, almost willingly going into that fight because they know what they're fighting for. No, you're just being slowly murdered.
Yep.
Your country is being slowly taken away from you. And I don't know what that's going to lead to. I cannot say that I hope for
a war or any conflict.
No, of course not.
No one would.
No one would. But there is a problem with the fact that people seem to be asleep.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, there's a big problem with that. And democratic means to fight this are constantly being taken away from people. So that is, you know, a diagnosis that we have to make. It's like, okay, what options do you leave people with if you cannot vote your way out of this? Because the people who do this to you were not voted in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, I'm worried that people are going to leave.
I think that's what's going to start to happen.
I mean, white flight's already happening.
The wealth is going to leave. The wealth is going to leave. And then the rest will just fall apart. The rest will just fall apart. If that happens, and I really hope it doesn't. But I'm also worried about the politicians, the elitists, the handlers, right? They're seeing all this stuff happen. They're seeing these people start to wake up, start to get savvy to the process here, and start taking grassroots political steps to counter this kind of thing. And then they push us into a war where now all of the traditionally white European men that serve in the army now get shipped out. They draft it, but they only draft to the legal citizens of the country. And then more white European natives get shipped out. And then white Europeans versus white Europeans kill each other. Now there's less white Europeans, and now there's a bigger gap for the migrants, and they just accelerate the replacement. I'm worried about that too, because I don't know if Europeans will be awake enough by that time to realize what's going on.
I have seen, which is something that I find a hopeful sign, I suppose, is I've seen a lot of comments online from young white men saying, we see their tactics. We see that now, you know, the commercials, when they're trying to draft people for the army. In no other commercial you ever see solely white men. But when it's about military, now suddenly, oh, the white men are back in fashion, right? And I think that that's something that young men do see. The younger generations, I know that this is true in Germany, it's true in the Netherlands, it's true here in Italy, they are more right-wing. They are more anti-establishment than even my generation or ours. I don't know exactly how old you are.
I'm 21.
Okay, you're much younger than I am. Okay, nice one.
No, but you're right. My generation is crazily right-wing, and I sympathize with their ideas and their positions on a lot of stuff because, I mean, we're inheriting a world where, as you can see, everything's kind of messed up. Everything's kind of messed up, and the prospect for the future is pretty dismal.
Yes, although then we get back to I don't want you to despair.
Exactly.
Like, I really don't want you to despair. And I also don't want you to focus on
the negatives or the bad conclusions to all these things. I really hope, too, that people don't focus too much on the despair, that they don't get overwhelmed by that seemingly overwhelming problem. It shouldn't overwhelm us. It's literally our responsibility to fix. And we can fix it, and we're fixing it in America.
Yes.
I know a lot of grassroots movements that are saying, hey, let's take a step back.
what's the most accessible low form of political control? It's precinct seats. 56% of them in America, more than 100,000, are completely empty. I mean, those people decide who runs, what gets voted on. Really powerful positions. All you got to be is 18, and half of them are vacant. You can just walk right in and take the seat.
I really liked what you said about taking responsibility, because I mean, it's, of course, great wrong is being done to us, and great wrong is being, and injustice is being done to our generation in the sense that we've been robbed of the Europe of our grandparents, of even our parents, right? I mean, we've never even known, I suppose, that level of homogeneity and safety, and of course, you know, no society is perfect, so I'm not saying that, but what happened to you didn't used to happen. You know, all those examples that I'm talking about, like that constant fear of going out into the public space and potentially becoming a victim of extreme violence, that's new. That did not exist, okay? That never happened. You had, of course, bad people, like every country has. Evil exists, okay? But this is not something that, I suppose I want people to take strength from the idea that we don't even need 51% of the population to think exactly like us in order for this to stop. You know what I mean? This doesn't need to come to violence in order for this to stop. Like, you can point at all of your enemies and complain about what they're doing to you, how they're trying to replace you, and we should do it because people need to wake up to it. But we need to remember that I think this is the truth. I think that if the white population says this is enough, like, I'm not accepting this anymore, it will stop. So of course you can point the finger at whoever is behind this, about all the organizations, all the groups, all the money, all of that. But once we say no, once we say we're not accepting this anymore, I will guarantee you this is going to end. So this starts with us. You know?
It does. It really does.
And that gives you
all the power in the world.
All the power. So that's why I'm always so against the doomsday the doom scrolling and the doomsday narratives, because it takes away that power from you. It's not over. You know, it's only over if you think that it's over. So
you got to keep fighting.
It's which way, white man? Like that's
I like that.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
It really is. It really is. And I hope that young guys like me looking at a situation like this don't get in the muck about it, because this is something that we can fix, just like you said. It's even something that we can fix democratically without getting pushed to violence. And the new mind that's trained goes right to that. It goes right to the polars. It's either we do nothing or we start shooting people. And there's all the space in between that requires effort in planning and learning, but it's where all the change is made in America here. And I really agree, it's where we should be looking. Oh my goodness, if they were to take that and put it behind all this legislation that's getting passed, just like you're talking about, they'd have the country in 24 hours. They have the country in 24 hours. Lock down everything. Now people listen.
Yeah, but the same thing can happen on smaller scales, like when they're, you know, we see this now. We see the civil disobedience growing, and for example, in the Netherlands, like, you know, when they decide that they want to put a new asylum center in a village of, like, I don't know, 1,500 people, and they want to bring in like 500 men. It's
obvious what they're doing too.
It's so obvious. It's like, you know, there cannot be one single quaint Dutch village left to escape this. Like, that's what they're trying to do, right? It cannot just be the city center. No, you have to feel unheimisch everywhere. Like, you cannot have a home anywhere anymore. I think also that's why they hate a country like Hungary so much. Because it's...
In Poland.
Yeah, in Poland, because those are then examples where people can go and be like, oh, so this is what we could also be living like, and we're not because of you. Okay, you're going to be out of power. Like you're going to be out of office very, very soon. So that cannot exist, right? That's why the attacks are so major. But I mean, now you see that when the Dutch population puts up a fight and protests and says, like, okay, we're not going to allow you to put another asylum center here. I mean, you know, they're going to find another municipality where the protest is going to be less loud or less intense, and they'll put them there. So we're still losing in that sense. But sometimes it works.
We're gaining ground.
Sometimes it works. And so again, those are things that when people start to do that more and more, I see, it adds up. I see real potential there.
Yeah.
Real potential.
I completely agree. A lot of people that I've met along the way and a lot of places that I've been just in filming this documentary have really shown that it's easy to lose all that hope in an instant. To go to a foreign country, walk around in Whitechapel, London, and just be like, wow, this is bad. And it is. But there's also solutions to that transcend the idea of let's send them home. It's, you know, as you talked about earlier, there really is no such thing as integration. There really is no such thing as integration. And selling people on the lie of that is...
Not at this rate.
No.
It does not exist. Like,
especially with cultures like this. Cultures that don't integrate, right? They just expand.
Because they don't want to. I mean, they're here to conquer you. They're not here to integrate in your like global homo culture.
Yeah, global homo culture. It's true. It's true though.
Or you know, in the German world, maybe like there's no Leitkultur.
Yeah.
And that already saying that a couple of years ago was like, you know, that was considered risky.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, how can that ever be a risky concept? And that's, once again, we come back to the fact that the Overton window has shifted so drastically. So drastically. If we think about what we're able to say now or what is part of the mainstream debate, think about how fast something like remigration can be implemented. We don't know.
But I'm seeing this divide get cleverly put into separating the American and the European people. Mm-hmm. Even what we saw with Greenland. All the political upheaval about that, almost going to war, joking about going to war with each other. It's ridiculous. But I look at that as another attempt by the establishment, in a way, to separate two people that would be way too powerful together. Way too powerful together.
Of course, because I think what do we have in common? You know,
pretty much everything.
Everything. I mean, you know, we have the same, as your vice president does point out all the time, and I'm grateful for that. We share the same heritage. Yeah. You know, it's white Europeans that built America. It's nice to see that we're brothers and sisters and that we share this type of heritage and that we have the same religion. Of course, you know, and that haven't even started talking about that, but the attack on Christianity is, of course, is the basis of this.
I want to hear more about that. How does that factor in here? Because it's literally the core of Europe in keeping all these beautiful and beautifully unique and culturally unique European countries together. Why are they attacking that, and how have they attacked it over time to further kind of split up this divide here?
I mean, you know, there's the institutional attack on Christianity. There is now, I would say, there's not even the need necessarily for an institutional attack in the sense that it has been just successfully filtered out so well. Mm-hmm. Europe is a Christian continent. You know, we have a Christian culture. Removing that
removes Europe, removes the heart, removes the core.
Everything.
It removes the passion.
Everything. And of course, you know, they talk about things like the Enlightenment and everything, and it's like, okay, yeah, we see what you're doing here.
Yeah, we see what you're doing. It's pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious. Yeah. But that, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, a revival of Christianity is something that we desperately need here, which is more so happening in America than it is in Europe.
Yeah.
And I think that's your main advantage to us, to
the value system.
Without it, you're lost. So I really hope that there will be a revival of that. And again, Christianity is a hopeful message. It's the good news. So that will prevent people also from, first of all, you know, getting on the wrong path.
Yeah.
But it will also prevent them from despairing.
Exactly.
Because this can be a long and a hard road, but you know what you're doing it for, and you know that it's nothing compared to what your Lord and Savior did for you.
Yeah.
And so,
amen.
I don't know. Don't have anything else to add really to that.
Amen.
So.
You know, one thing has remained clear to me throughout this entire documentary, this entire process. And it's those words Gonzo told me at the very beginning. People get the governments that they deserve. Because the government is an example of what the people tolerate. of what the people will stand up for and sit down for. And we're at a place, a crossroads, where we can't sit down any longer. We don't have any more time to waste. There is real loss happening every second, every moment, whether it's life, whether it's liberty, or it's the pursuit of happiness. These themes have happened in history before. Our forefathers have been in situations very much like this. They made a hard decision. It's now our turn to make that same one. What will we decide on? What will we choose to do? That's up to you.